Well, hello and welcome to episode 180 of Drink the Movies. I'm Brian here, as always, with Michaela. And Michaela, 180, that sounds like a pretty big deal, right? That means that we've been doing this for a long time, but we haven't been
Long
doing it
time.
nearly as long as Alfred Hitchcock did it, because we're going way back in the Wayback Machine today. We're going all the way back to 1954. Happy 70th birthday to Rear Window.
That's right. This film, they've made I don't know how many like different versions of this. So Christopher Reeve did a version of this in like the 90s. I think Shia LaBeouf was in some sort of rendition of this. It wasn't called Rear Window, it
Well,
was called something else. You know
yeah,
what I'm talking about?
they did one made-for-TV movie, and then it inspired a bunch of things, as we're going to talk about for sure. But yeah, Rear Window is a big deal, Michaela.
Yeah.
It's often cited as one of the greatest films of all time. A lot of people say that it's Alfred Hitchcock's greatest film of all time. People study it, people dissect it. When people need to learn about how to build sets, they should watch Rear Window. It's does all the things, right? It's mystery. It's all the Hitchcockian things that you'd expect from this. And, it stars a lot of major players from now. This had to have been a big deal 70 years ago when it came out. James Stewart, Grace Kelly. Come on now, Rear Window. It's got to be a good time.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, where else can you get things like voyeurism, social commentary, Grace Kelly? I mean, there's not a lot. There's not a lot of things in the world that make sense without Grace Kelly in it. Yeah, this I was interested because I seem to remember seeing this film. I don't remember. I certainly never saw it in the theater, but I do remember feeling like this was like epic when I saw that it had its 70th anniversary out this year, and I was like, we should definitely watch it. We should try and see it in the theater if we can.
Mhm.
But I don't remember actually ever seeing the film all the way through except for watching it for the sake of the podcast. I obviously had seen Disturbia, which was basically like a teenage version of Rear Window with Shia LaBeouf. Um,
Mhm.
I don't know if you had seen this in like any of your film class or anything like that.
Yeah, so I had never seen this all the way through until I watched it for the podcast either. Watched, some bits and pieces of it for my film theory class that I took in college. So that was a really good time, kind of got me introduced to it. And then, of course, Hitchcock from things like The Birds and obviously Psycho, Strangers on a Train, stuff like that. So this movie has always been around kind of in my knowledge base, but never had a chance to watch it until right now. So let's do this, Michaela. Let's go ahead, mix up a cocktail. We'll put on, I don't know, like the film projector, I guess. Is that how you watch films that are 70 years old? I don't know. We'll figure out a way to do it. And we'll be right back to chat about this week's cocktail.
So this week's cocktail is the Rear Window cocktail. It comes from concocktails.com. Um, it's really easy to put together. The only thing that might be kind of hard to find, and this is just really depending on how close you are to a decent grocery store, is passion fruit syrup, which I could not find, but I made some myself, and we can talk about how you do that. But it's four ingredients. And some bitters. We don't count the bitters, so it's four ingredients. It's pretty easy. It's pretty interesting too. We
Hmm.
had talked in our lobby bar this week about rum. So if you've got some dark rum, you could use that in this cocktail. It calls for 2 ounces of it in a shaker tin with an ounce of pink grapefruit, half an ounce of cognac, and half an ounce of this passion fruit syrup. Now, I couldn't find passion fruit syrup. What I could find was passion fruit juice. And so what I
Hmm. Hmm.
did,
Hmm.
if you don't know how, if you want to make up your own syrup, you can do it the old fashioned way, which is find some passion fruit and infuse it. I couldn't find any passion fruit either. But I found some passion fruit juice. I put it over a stove, gently aflame. I added some sugar and I let it reduce down by like at least half. So it really got to be kind of that syrupy concoction, and then you cool
Hmm.
it before you add it to your drink. Definitely cool it, or else it'll make it all watery with the ice. So put it all together in a shaker tin, put it over a rocks glass that's got some ice in it, and you can add 2 dashes of barrel aged bitters to give it an extra fancy piece to it. This one was good. I liked it.
This one was pretty good. Yeah. You want to go ahead and get this put together and then, drink and enjoy while you're watching Rear Window. The concocktails.com website, which I'll put a link to, has, kind of goes through these different ingredients. Mostly what I remember about the film is that they drank a lot of cognac, right? Grace Kelly keeps bringing glasses of cognac out, which is pretty good time to me. That sounds like to me. This particular recipe, it called for like Old Monk rum, which is a brand that I wasn't familiar with. I'd never really heard of it or seen it. So I went out and looked for it. I couldn't find it. I guess it's from India. So we just swapped that out for a different, aged dark rum that had some of the like vanilla characteristics and stuff like that that, the Old Monk was claiming to have. So yeah, any kind of dark rum or especially aged rum is going to, do you pretty well in this cocktail. This was pretty good, Michaela. There was kind of like this weird like disconnect in it where it tasted pretty good like on first sip and it kind of finished pretty good, but like in the middle it just felt like some of the flavors were clashing to me. And I don't know if that was just like the astringency of the grapefruit or like, like the sweetness of like the passion fruit and then like the sourness of the grapefruit coming together. There was a little bit of a clash. That sort of went away as you carried on drinking the drink, right? It got a little bit of that ice melt in there. It kind of carried away. And then, as I was sitting there sipping this and enjoying it, we were having this together, Michaela, I sort of likened it to the film, right? Because in this movie, right, you have James Stewart who's sitting there in his house. He's just looking into everyone's windows. So, there's kind of this contiguous story, but, there's a little bit of contrast between all of these windows that he's looking into. So maybe the cocktail speaks on, a higher level than just the way that it tastes. Maybe it really is capturing this Rear Window, but this one was pretty good.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought at first I don't know, I thought it was a little, it's not too sweet, it's not too boozy. It's got a lot of booze in it, but it's not, I didn't find it like where it was overpowering in that way.
Hmm.
The bitters gives it kind of a nice like a darkness to it that complements with the rum. I don't know. I thought this was good. I definitely think that it's better than just an entire. We had joked about just having a glass of cognac be the drink for Rear Window because that's all they do is just serve cognac in the middle of the night, talking about how this dude's definitely a murderer, but they can't prove it. So I like this though. I think maybe if I could do it a little bit differently, I might have switched out the passion fruit syrup for like something a little bit more silky, like maybe mango or papaya.
Hmm.
I don't know
Okay.
why I want to do that, but I feel like that would have, because passion fruit's good, but it's got that brightness that to me kind of didn't fit as well as maybe kind of a more kind of stone fruit, if those are stone fruits. I don't even know if those are stone fruits, but that's what I would want. I wanted the mouthfeel of like mango. I wanted it to be more like thick and creamy instead of like
Okay.
just bright. If I was going
Mm.
to be critical at all, but I really liked this. I thought it was good. I don't get enough drinks with cognac in it, and so this definitely fit the bill there. I like that.
There you go. Absolutely. So go ahead and mix one of these up at home. Give it a try and let us know what you think about it. Send us pictures, all that good stuff. But now what we need to do, Michaela, is we need to go because they're showing it at our movie theater. Let's go to the movie theater. We will see in bright, beautiful color on a giant movie screen, Rear Window for its 70th anniversary. So let's do that. And then we'll be right back to chat about this week's film.
This is the scene of the crime. A crime of passion, filmed in a way you have never seen before, and as no one else would dare attempt. But the screen's master of suspense, the producer-director who shocked the world with Psycho. This is the apartment of a man named Jeffries, a news photographer whose beat used to be the world. Right now, his world has shrunk down to the size of this window. He's been watching the people across the way. Nobody seems to pull their blinds during a hot spell like this. He knows a lot about them by now. Too much, perhaps.
Spoiler warning for Rear Window. If you've not yet seen it, it's 70 years old, so you've had a lot of time. But if you haven't, and you don't want us to tell you how it ends, you should press pause. You should go right now into the theater because it's showing and it's going to be gorgeous. So you definitely want to see it in the theater if you can. You want to make yourself a Rear Window cocktail because it's really tasty. And then you can come back and you can hear us chat about all things Rear Window, including the ending, because we're going to spoil it. You've been warned.
That's right. Yeah. And you have had 70 years to see it. You might not have, because Michaela and I hadn't. So
We
there you
hadn't. I
go.
mean,
So,
no
so fair.
shame, no shame
So
in
fair
that
enough.
game.
No shame there. So this was released in 1954, September 1st, actually. So it'll be 70 here in just about a week when you're listening to this, when this releases. It was directed by Alfred Hitchcock, and it stars James Stewart as our housebound photographer, Jeffries. Wendell Corey is his detective friend, Tom Doyle. Thelma Ritter as his caretaker slash masseuse slash medicine bringer. I don't really know exactly what her job was exactly, but she was playing
Worked
a
for the
character by the
insurance
name
company.
for
She was like a
Stella.
nurse that the insurance
Yeah,
company hired. What is
yeah.
up with
Apparently,
that?
apparently Jeffries had good insurance there, taking pictures. And then
Yeah.
Grace Kelly as the lovely Lisa Fremont. And then of course there are neighbors here that he's looking at the window. And we're going to talk about them a little bit when we get into this. So Michaela, this was based on a short story. It's called "It Had to Be Murder" by Cornell Woolrich, which was pretty good, right? Obviously made an impression on Alfred Hitchcock. It seems like a very Alfred Hitchcock kind of story. So it made sense that this story, came to his door, and he was the one to make it, and he did make it. Impressively, made it for $1 million, which was probably a lot of money in 1954. But if you're Alfred Hitchcock, right? You've already been nominated for three Best Director Academy Awards at this point, right? For Rebecca, for Lifeboat, for Spellbound. You probably get a pretty long leash from the movie studio. They say, here's $1 million, Alfred Hitchcock. What can you do? Well, what can he do is he can hire James Stewart, he can hire Grace Kelly, and he can build a crazy set, Michaela. They built this whole set on a soundstage. It is pretty amazing. And if you watch this movie, that's the first thing that your eye is going to see is how incredible the set looks.
Yeah. One of the things that I find amazing, and I totally don't know why I should have known that this is one of the reasons why this film is so heralded, is this was not a play first. It was a story that they went immediately from the book to the screen, which is insane because you would think, looking at it, that it had been in the mind's eye of some play director to lay things out the way that they have, right?
Mhm.
This set is insane. The number of people that are acting on in this set and the way in which the camera work had to run to be able to tell these stories from the mind's eye of LB Jeffries, right? Who's just watching with binoculars or his camera with a big wide angle lens, right? Trying to figure out what's happening. It's impeccable. The timing of it, it's really cool. Look, the way that they span out to tell the story, and just the direction of the set in itself is just really, really cool.
Mhm.
If you look at it now, I mean, it's the colors beautiful, the technicolor is really gorgeous, all the flowers that are in the garden really pop. You don't mind that now they kind of look fake, right? It doesn't bother you because it's just so beautiful, and the stylisticness of the fact that it's kind of behind this very busy street. It's the backside, so we can see like people's front door through the windows, but we also see so many different buildings that have kind of seeded themselves together. So you have like, Miss Lonely Hearts, who's like this old woman. You have all these other vignettes, and you've got this guy who's always throwing parties or trying to play music, and they all have different styles of windows. They all live in these different kind of apartment buildings that are all very like smushed together. It's
Mhm.
just really, really cool the way in which it was put together. And if you get nothing else out of this film, that's what you should get, because the art direction's incredible.
Yeah, it is incredible, and the way they design the set is equally as incredible because it's a life-size thing. So according to this, the courtyard was 98 feet wide. It was 185 feet long, 40 feet high, and there were 31 total apartments that they built for this thing. 12 of them were fully furnished, and that's where we're going to spend most of our time, kind of looking through the windows on this. And I guess that Alfred Hitchcock had basically like a microphone, and then the actors in the other apartments wore earpieces because they were filming this, all kind of live, and you're, filming it from, the apartment from Jeffrey's apartment, basically, and you're seeing these people, for like 100 feet away. unbelievable that this thing could come together. And that was $1 million well spent because it returned $37 million and some Academy Awards. Michaela was nominated for four of them for Best Sound Recording, Best Color Cinematography, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Director. Grace Kelly, on a side note, won the Academy Award that year for Best Actress for The Country Girl. So, yeah, this was very lauded. And like we said at the top, this is like a film study staple on putting together a movie in terms of, the construction of it, but, also, the Alfred Hitchcock of it all, right? This like whodunit, this mystery sort of thing that you think of when you think of the great Alfred Hitchcock. So let's get into the movie a little bit, Michaela, and we're going to start in the of LB Jeffries. He's there. He's got a cast on his leg. It is like 1,000 degrees in his apartment. That's not looking good. But he's keeping himself as entertained as possible for the last 7 weeks that he's been there.
Yeah. Yeah. I love in this very opening scene with Jeffries, in about 30 seconds, you get this really very succinct background of who he is without any words at all. And it just speaks to the filmmaking, like the director genius that Alfred Hitchcock is, right? So we see that he's a photographer. We see that he's got a broken leg. We see that he has a broken camera. And his latest shot was this amazing shot of a giant car crash that
of a
apparently
tire
landed
coming
on
right at
him.
his leg.
Right. And so we see all this. We see that he's been all over the world, done these really amazing things, taken some amazing pictures. But he gets a phone call from his friend. It's his last week of being homebound. And it's interesting that this happens the very last week. The windows are open. He's sweaty. The Technicolor is really beautiful. You can see like the strands of silver in James Stewart's hair. He is not the same as, the lovable person that he was in It's a Wonderful Life. He's definitely older. He looks older. He's got this kind of definite cabin fever around him. He's like, there's nothing for me to do. What do I do? I'm so bored. Get me out on a plane, get me out on a train. I'll do anything. And they're like, nah, dude, you just need to rest up. You got one more week. And I love that. I love that in a really short amount of time, we have a really good foundation for all the weird things that he's going to be like basically witnessing over the course of the next few days.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. I think that it's important, right, that he's this kind of like jet setting sort of career person, because it really then drives home the fact that you are housebound, that you don't have anything to do. You're used to all of these adventures and things. He even talks to like his, I don't know, like the newspaper boss or whoever like his, I don't know, quote unquote, like bosses as a photographer to go out on these different assignments. And he's just itching, just chomping at the bits to do. Because what do, right? It's 1954. You just sit and look out your window at people. Now, I grew up like in rural Ohio. You grew up in Texas, so we didn't really have this same sort of like courtyard sort of thing. But if you've ever been in the city or like an Airbnb and you look out and you can see like in the building next to you, you see in people's windows and there's like whole lives going on there. And part of this movie is kind of analyzing like how much of that are you entitled to? How much of it are you allowed to like interpret? Things like that. But that's what he's going to be doing. He's going to be spending his time looking out the window. Let's talk about a couple of these crazy characters that we have running around in his little courtyard there. We're skimming around back and forth. Of course, you've got the lovely lady up there doing her dancing. You've got the younger gentleman up there. He's always doing some piano playing, like writing these sort of like orchestral pieces, which is really cool. You've got like an artist downstairs. I really like her. Like she spends half of her time like doing like some sculpting, and then the other half of her time like taking a nap in the lawn chair outside. Yeah. That's pretty good.
Yeah, no, I love her because she's like comes out in like a sundress, and it's 1954. She's got like a normal body, and she's showing her normal body. That was one thing that I loved. And she's like telling the gardener, there's a gentleman who really loves his garden, and she's telling the gardener like what to do with his roses and not to overwater him. And he's like, shut up, leave me alone. And she's like, oh, well, I never. And then she goes back and then he has no problem telling her that this sculpture thing that she has named Hunger looks real weird and he doesn't approve. And so it's kind of neat because they're like all neighborly, but not friendly, which I guess is probably a real life look at what it's like to live in a big city like that, right?
Yeah, for sure. You're seeing all sorts of different people. You've also got like there's like a couple upstairs. So this drove both of our heads in. They had like this little dog, right? This little yappy dog, but they would just like put him in a basket to lower him down into the courtyard. No animal safety here for sure. That seems like not a great idea. But I mean the dog did it. So he did, and he ran back in, got back on that basket and got hoisted back up. That's pretty good. So you got them, you've got like the ladies living by herself down on the ground floor. And then you've got this other couple there with like a kind of like a bedridden, kind of misses, right? It seems like she's sick, and we're going to learn more about their story here as we go through the movie because that's what this movie really is analyzing, Michaela. It's kind of bouncing around these different storylines that you're trying to keep up with, right? I mean, we've all done this. You go to like the zoo or the amusement park or the mall, and you see people, and you're like, I wonder who that person is. Like, what's their deal, right? And you're getting these snippets into all of these lives of these different people, but one of these windows in particular is going to catch the eye of Jeffries. He's going to take a bit of an interest because, kind of that sick, like bedridden kind of lady, her and her husband, things start to go a little bit astray, and there's some mystery revolving around there. And basically, it's going to get into Jeffrey's head to the point where he's pretty sure that Mr. Thorwald has done off with his wife, and he is getting ready to make his great escape. That's what the story is about. It's about that crime and the way that Jeffries is going to analyze it and talk about it. So we're going to get back to that here in a minute, Michaela. We've talked a little bit about the neighbors. Let's talk about some of the friends.
Ah, the friends. Well, if we're going to talk about the friends, the first one we should really talk about is the most beautiful friend he has. Grace Kelly plays his lovely girlfriend, Lisa Fremont. And actually, it's interesting because this whole thing starts because he's getting a bunch of stick from his kind of nurse lady who's telling him, hey, you should really marry
Hmm.
Lisa. Lisa's amazing. She's the most beautiful creature to ever walk the earth. And for whatever reason, she kind of
Yeah.
likes you. This curmudgeon guy who never leaves his apartment, who hasn't left his apartment in 5 weeks. And when he does leave, he wants to go to places that are sticky and sweaty and gross, and there's not a lot of food, and maybe there's no way out. And why would he do that when he could be in love with beautiful socialite, rich Lisa Fremont? Why would he not want to do that?
Yeah, maybe his eyes and ears and sensibilities all got damaged in that car accident. Because yeah, she's absolutely great, right? I like her introduction to Lisa Fremont. She just kind of shows up like in the middle of the night. And you're like, who is this mysterious stranger? And it turns out that it is Miss Fremont. There, she is there to show off the very fancy dresses that she's been wearing as in her life as I don't know. She's like some sort of like fashion consultant or something like that. I'm not 100% sure what her job was, other than to wear these very expensive dresses and to have a good time because that's what she's always on about, right? Let's have a good time. Let's settle down. We'll get married. We seem to like each other. I like she just like breaks into the apartment. She comes over and she's leaning in all close to Jeffries there, of course, and they spend couple nice nights together, right? Having dinner. She has like dinner brought in from some fancy restaurant with like the biggest lobster I've ever seen in my life. She's always going to get you
Yeah.
cognac. What's wrong with you, Jeffries?
What's
Come on.
wrong indeed?
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Yeah, and Stella even says as much. Who is Stella, Michaela? Does she have a job? What is her job? She does
Yes.
have a job. What is it?
So she is a nurse that apparently, because Jeffries, it took me some figuring out. I had to watch this scene a couple of times, but apparently Jeffries, he was hurt in the line of duty. And so the
Mm,
insurance company wants to make sure that he is healing up nicely. I don't know when this stopped happening because now insurance companies don't do that. But they apparently send over a nurse every day to like rub Jeffries down and massage him and make sure that his bed gets cleaned and that he's changing clothes and
hmm
looking after
hmm
his leg properly. That's amazing. And Stella, this is really where this whole thing starts because they're talking about what good is marriage, right? James Stewart's character, Jeffries, is like, women, they turn into nags, and look at this couple over there. All she's doing from the bed is just nagging her husband, and he's just sick of it. You can just tell. And that kind of puts the idea in his head that maybe when the woman just disappears from the bed, even though she's been bedridden, maybe something has befallen her. But
hmm
Stella's like the most sane, like level-headed person. She's like, stop looking out the window. You
Yeah.
should, once you leave this bed, once you're not bedridden anymore, Jeffries, and you're, you know, your leg is mended. You need to marry, you need to quit being an idiot, and you need to
Yeah.
marry Lisa, and you need to go and start looking through your back window into your house, because that's what's actually important, is what's around you right
Hmm.
now, not what's out here across the street, silly person.
Yeah,
I
Stella is
love
the
her
only
so
one.
much.
Stella's the only one who has her stuff in line, right? Besides just having to come over and give massages to Jeffries for her job, she's like, stop looking out the window. What is wrong with you? Pay attention to inside. None of that is your business. Stop doing that. Stop staying up all hours of the night. Stop sitting in your wheelchair all day, right? Get into like a different chair or your bed, right? Don't sit in that chair.
Right.
It's like
He won't
hot
even
and
sleep in his own bed.
sweaty
He has to sleep in the
and
seat.
gross. Yeah. So yeah, listen to Stella. Stella's the best. And then we've got another character, one of his pals here. I think they knew each other back from their army days or something like that, or at least Jeffries was like a photographer there for his army unit, something like that. We've got Detective Lieutenant Tom J. Doyle, played by Wendell Corey. Now Detective Tom Doyle there, he's going to be called in on the case from Jeffries because as we've talked about, we've alluded to it a couple times, right? There's this couple across, and Jeffries thinks that something terrible is afoot, right? He thinks that he has witnessed a crime. Well, not really witnessed a crime so much, but he's seen like the pieces of a crime, or so he thinks. So he's going to bring in Detective Doyle to to kind of run these facts by him. Get this guy on the case, turn him on to this crime that's happened potentially across the street. Wendell Corey is awesome in this role. He's probably my favorite of like the actors in this, and I really like Jimmy Stewart on a side note. So I love that. I love their banter that they have. It felt like very natural between the two of them, like they were really like old chums, and he was giving shtick, just back to Jeffries, just as quick as he was taking it. I loved him. He's like, what what is wrong with you, you guy? You just stop doing this. Pay attention. Like he goes over there when Lisa Fremont's there, and he looks at her and he's like, why are you bothering me? Stop calling me. Hang out with Lisa Fremont and
Yeah.
stop
By the
bothering
way,
me.
this is after Lisa Fremont brings over like the nicest, most silkiest looking like evening dress I've ever seen in my life, with matching slippers in a little teeny tiny purse, because he had told her the night before when they had their argument about what was going to happen with their relationship. He was like, you can't pack. It'll take you forever. You'll need 17 bags. I have a backpack and that's all I get. Well, then the next day she's like, I'll show you. And she has this teeny tiny little purse that's got like shoes and a negligee in it. What is the problem? It's Grace Kelly. Yeah. So his best friend is like, I don't know what you're, I don't get it. And then he's also like, dude, I have got some other things going on in my life. It's cool that you think that this is a crime. I'm not going to tell anybody. I'm going to start looking at some of these points that you brought to my attention on the sly, because I'll get laughed out of the office.
Mhm. Yeah, that's true. And, Detective Doyle is pretty quick, right, to acknowledge all these things that Jeffries sees, right? So he'll tell him one thing, and he's very quick to, kind of debunk it, or to say like what the facts were, the checking in that he's done on this stuff, because we're just getting breadcrumbs here as Jeffries, right? He's there, he's looking through his binoculars out this window, and he sees what he believes to be a crime. Let's talk about the crime a little bit more here, Michaela. Not necessarily the crime, because I guess we don't really see it, right? Which is, kind of Hitchcock's shtick there. You're getting like the surrounding pieces, but not necessarily that. And that is what Jeffries is getting there in the apartment, right? We see kind of the wife there, like I said, kind of like bedridden or sick, something like that. And you'll see the husband, coming in and out, getting home from work, stuff like that. And there's a little bit of arguing, a little bit of a standoffishness, and then one day, wife is gone, right? Like the mattress is like rolled up. The husband, Mr. Thorwald, has gone out in the middle of the night, carrying a saw and it was like a hammer or something. I don't know, like a saw and a knife, right? And that seems pretty suspicious. When does he get home? Of course, it's when Jeffries is asleep. So that's kind of the first point of contention. But we keep kind of getting these little nuggets, right, Michaela? First she disappears, and then he goes out late at night, and then he's like tying up like a container box sort of thing, and then he's pulling out all the belongings and kind of going through them. It seems kind of sus, to be honest.
He's got some really interesting ideas about where he's got like a rope that he's wrapped a trunk wrapped around a trunk. He's got
Mhm.
all these suitcases that he leaves out in the middle of the night, and that he walks out all the way out to the street and comes back, and he's done that a couple of times. There's a saw. He's like, this is not normal. I don't think this is normal. He's out digging in the garden. He's like, something is very wrong. But then he's asleep, and a bunch of people have said, well, we saw the husband and wife leave at like 6 o'clock in the morning on the way to the train. And he's like, yeah, but did anybody like really see her? Like, did anybody see her actually get on the train? Are we sure it's the right woman? Because she couldn't walk before. So I don't know if she's walking to the train station. I mean, all of these things are still not adding up to Jeffries. And his friend, I really love the testament to their friendship, because he doesn't ever really say you're nuts. He's like, I'm telling you that there's probably an explanation that has nothing to do with murder. I will go make a couple inquiries, but I'm telling you that this is probably fine. He doesn't completely dismiss him, though. And I think that's really important, because later, when the evidence starts to really mount up and things get very hairy and a little dangerous, right? Because they're trying to like put their hands on some true evidence. His friend Lieutenant Doyle is like, yes, I believe you. I will be right there. I will send the right people. I will come, which is great.
Yeah, it keeps kind of escalating, right? As Jeffries is going from, being kind of like, pretty sure that this has happened, to being even more sure that this happened. That poor little dog that rides in the basket turns up, dead out in the courtyard. That's pretty shocking and pretty terrible. I imagine it was really shocking in 1954 for that to have happened, because we've seen the dog out, right, going out to do its dogly business, and starts digging at the corner of this thing. And that's kind of another clue, right? Something is probably buried in there. So let's go dig that up. And, kind of along for the ride this whole time is Lisa Fremont. She never really seems turned off by this. I think she's seeing it as kind of like a little like glimpse into like the adventurous like side of Jeffries, right? That she's
Yeah.
not really seeing, right? She's kind of in it for this mystery, and she's going to kind of play along, right? Is sitting there and kind of hypothesizing what sorts of things do. And of course, she's going to bring a women's perspective to the way that this is going to go, the things that get left behind, and things like that. So, Detective Doyle is really up against it, right? When he's got both of these characters, kind of coming to join forces, as it were, together. So, what do? Michaela, you gotta go start to find some evidence, right? Because detectives, the police aren't going to do anything. They can't just like kick in this guy's door because the neighbor says something suspicious happened. We got to go find some hard evidence. So, Lisa Fremont and Stella, they go down to like dig up that little like rose bush. They don't find anything, of course. So, got to escalate this thing again. And Lisa Fremont, one for adventure for sure. She's just going to go up into the apartment, just go check things out.
Why not? What could possibly go wrong? So this is to me,
Lisa Fremont can talk her way out of trouble. I guarantee it.
Yeah, well, and she does. I mean, he only, he at first seems real excited to see her in his house. I mean, she's like, it'll be fine. I think that's probably my only biggest problem, is that when at the very end she confronts this man, he's very angry. They turn out the light, and Jeffries and Stella are just watching as she could get hurt right in front of them, and they're just watching. They're not able to do anything. And I was so angry, because I was like, I mean, honestly, I don't know what they could have possibly have done, but the feeling of helplessness, and that was cinematic magic for me, because you don't think, you think you might actually witness like Grace Kelly's character, Lisa Fremont, like get murdered or beaten or hurt. And the police show up just in time to like grab her and keep her safe, and by arresting her because she's in this man's room and she shouldn't be. And so then they go from like this total like worry and like worried sickness to being like, let's all bail her out of jail. But that piece of film was so stressful to watch. And again, it speaks to all of the things that Hitchcock is known for. Although in this sense, it's just in a much different package, because we're not talking about some crazy, mom we think that murders people for fun. This isn't a serial killer moment. It's not, there aren't psycho birds everywhere. This is just caring about somebody that you care about, and
Mhm.
like watching these things unfold, and the feeling of helplessness, in the voyeurism that Jeffries had to endure for the last few days. I think the symbolism there, maybe I'm too deep with it, but that's one of the things, one of the best scenes in my mind of the reaction, the visceral reaction that you had to
Mhm.
this piece of filmmaking.
Yeah, absolutely. Because kind of up until this point, we don't really know for sure that Mr. Thorwald is guilty of this, right? Detective Doyle is, kind of turned back every piece of evidence that we've presented as, something else has happened. The latch on the case was broken. That's why I tied it up, or he got a telegram from his missus when she got to wherever she was going. And even kind of early on, we learned that Mr. Thorwald is like his job is to like buy and sell like costume jewelry, right? So he has all this jewelry, but in the back of your mind, you're like, well, maybe that's just his costume jewelry. Maybe it's not that big of a deal. So it's not until Miss Fremont goes into the apartment and she gets the actual wedding ring there and is saved in the nick of time. And yeah, it is very stressful because we're just like Jeffries. There isn't anything you can do to help her, right? You call the police, but you're there with a busted up leg. What are you going to do? Even if you could do anything, she's all the way on this other side of this courtyard, right? Like 100 feet away. So what are you doing? You're just watching this kind of unfold, and you don't know. But at that moment, we know that Mr. Thorwald is guilty, and we tell Detective Doyle that, right? So yeah, kind of going to get the police rounded up to come and do the final arrest, but. It's not all good because Miss Fremont now she's arrested, breaking and entering. That's bad. Stella's gone to go bail her out of jail. So Jeffries is there in the apartment by himself, very vulnerable. Has the broken leg and like the biggest cast of all time there, and he's just kind of like sitting and waiting. And then you start to hear like these footsteps coming up the hallway, right? So he turns off the lights, and you're just waiting for someone to come in. And of course, it's Mr. Thorwald. That's who's outside. And how are you going to like fight this guy off, right? He got a broken leg. We know that he's this murderer guy now, and he's coming into your apartment. And one of the neat Hitchcock things that he does, of course, is because Jeffries is a photographer. He gets like his little like flash pan, and in the dark, we'll just keep kind of flashing these flash bulbs. It's Mr. Thorwald, which kind of
Right.
elongates this last kind of pursuit that you have, obviously, and you get
Yeah.
this big flash of color. It's very disorienting, and it really builds up the drama and something that's happening within the span of about 6 feet.
Yeah. Yeah. The red kind of overlay that, you're envisioning things as you were, um, uh, the assailant, right? And he can't see, and he's rubbing his eyes, and he's still he takes another step, and it's a crack, and the sound editing of this is amazing because you really can hear all of the fixins, and it's not as simple as now where we're just blind and just press the button. You are really worried for a second, and then you're even more worried because poor Jeffries, like, just the guy just picks him up and throws him over the side like he's a rag doll. It's no big
Mm-hmm.
deal. Like so it's good that he had those extra couple of seconds, but he ends up being kind of caught falling down. He still breaks another leg, so he's stuck for like another 6 weeks. But he survives. But that piece where the kind of the red comes over, and they do it over and over again, it definitely builds up the tension. And then like the special effects of how they actually grab him, because it
Mm-hmm.
looks like they do actually really catch him at the end.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they do that, because I think that I would have my legs insured, or
I
my
would have
body. I don't know. I
That's
don't
right.
think I don't think
The
the
insurance only
HSE
pays
safety.
for a masseuse. It doesn't pay for the other stuff.
Yeah, something.
Yeah, because I like the police get there, just in time, right? So he's managed to thwart off Mr. Thorwald just long enough for the police to get there, and yeah, they do mostly catch him, so he doesn't fall to his peril there. But Lisa Fremont out of jail, that's good. And Mr. Thorwald now is arrested. He's on his way to jail, so that's all good, right? So we kind of do one last kind of like sweep around the courtyard there. We got uh Miss Torso. She's finally done dancing because her her lover is back from the army, I guess.
Mm.
Probably some army guy. He's back, right? We kind of check in with everyone else, like the newlywed couple that were there. They've moved out. That's not great. On a quick aside, I really like the newlywed couple because they like move in and then like every time he like looks over at that window, it'll be like the husband. He just kind of is like leaning out the window, looking exasperated, and then like his new bride is like calling him back into the apartment. I really
Yep.
love that. I really love that. He's looking bad, and then the film ends basically with Miss Fremont, lowering the shades, right? Jeffries has had his voyeuristic sort of romp, I guess, through this rear window, and the shade is closing. And it mirrors perfectly. We didn't talk about because the movie actually opens kind of on the credits with these three. I don't even know what kind of shades they're called, but they're like those roll up shades,
Oh
and it's just
yeah.
rolling them up. There's three panels, and it just slowly rolls up. Like all three of them kind of alternates, and it just like exposes this masterpiece of a set that they built. It's really
Yeah.
cool. It's really cool.
It it is really cool. I love the little, I don't know if we would have called them Easter eggs, but like the pieces, like she's dressed very casually in this, right? She's reading like a travel book. And then when
Mhm.
she notices that he's asleep, she picks up her Harper's Bazaar. Because that was always a thing between the two of them. He was like, "Oh, it'll never work. She's too much of an aristocrat for me. She's too much of a socialite. She doesn't can't bring herself to care about the things that I care about, no matter how much she loves me," which was complete baloney. Like clearly, she is like his partner in crime, right? Solving, right? In this whole
Yep.
thing, she's like totally into it. And she, gosh, he's such a dolt. Like, why doesn't he see it at the beginning? She's like trying to kiss him. There's this really very, I don't know what the word is, very not adult, so they're just kissing, but it's a very
hmm
heavy scene where
It's
she's really trying to like get
it's
him to pay
it's
attention to her.
it's a very physically charged scene. I
Yeah,
will
that's
say
that's a good way to
that
say it.
first night she comes into his apartment, he's asleep, and she leans in, super close to him, and they're having like this whispering conversation with their lips, just about 3 inches apart from each other, and yeah. I don't know what he's doing. Focus on the here and now, James Stewart. So,
Right. But she immediately, like, she'll figure out a way to, like, it's on her. Like, she's a smart person. She has autonomy and she knows what she wants. She still loves him. She wants to be with him. And so I really kind of like that piece, because at the end of the day, the joke's on him. Like, he's the one who put up all these barriers for that relationship, and she's just taking them and throwing them away, these barriers, and like, no, I can do it all. I really can. And I really love that piece, because you were a little worried, like maybe he needed a lobotomy of some kind, because she's
mhm.
amazing in so many ways, right? Even his best friend was like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
should we have a drink before I leave?" No, okay, fine, whatever.
Yeah, for sure. So that is the movie. It's literally a movie about watching, other people and then kind of this kind of smaller story in sort of the background there that we get into, kind of analyzing this crime and see what happens. And it's very much kind of this twist, very suspenseful. All the things you'd expect from an Alfred Hitchcock movie. I think it's impressive that, this got made. $1 million is a lot. It came back with $37 million, which is good. But I have to imagine that like 80% of the budget went to, building that set, and then 20% of the budget went to paying James Stewart's fee, right? He'd already won an Oscar at this point. He'd been nominated for, I think, four in total by the time this came out. So that's pretty impressive. And just the fact that it exists at all, like, is really kind of amazing. Like I said, Alfred Hitchcock probably got pretty long piece of rope to work with in terms of that. He's already, extremely established and extremely successful by the time this comes out, and this is like a decade almost before Psycho, which is, kind of the penultimate, I guess, when people think of Alfred Hitchcock, what they think about. So that's really impressive. And then kind of the stuff that it went on to inspire. I think there was like the one actual like remake kind of thing for it. It was like a TV movie the Christopher Reeve did back in the 80s, I think, or no, 1998, I guess is when that was. But it inspired a lot of other things that were basically kind of like knockoffs of this or homages to it. Brian De Palma is a big fan of this and did like 5 films that were basically just this reimagined. Our own beloved Taylor Swift apparently talks about this movie a lot, which is pretty good. She's referenced it in some of her music videos and said that it inspired a lot of the album Folklore, which we talked about back on Drink the Music. So you can go check that out if you want a little bit more information on that. But yeah, I think that this movie is good. I really enjoyed watching it. I really loved kind of the dialogue for it. I was really impressed with how good the dialogue was here in this film. And I think that, to tell a story like this, you really need someone like James Stewart to play that leading role because they have to be, um, commanding enough, but also like likable enough. Like even
Yeah.
when Jimmy Stewart's acting like a jerk, he's still kind of like him. So I think it needs someone like that in this role, or else it kind of just falls apart because this is just a POV of what they're looking out at their window, right? Literally.
Right. Right. No, I agree. I mean, I can't imagine a better person in these. I think in these characters. I think that they have tried to do this story a lot, and it's good that they. I mean, I love Brian De Palma, right? I love some of his kind of twists on this original story, but this one is so perfect. And it's probably why people have tried to recreate it over and over again. I mean, even like I think Hey Dude, which was a show out of Nickelodeon, there was an episode, like a 30-minute episode of someone who thought he saw a crime and what if he didn't really see it and all of that. And that's like from something that was made for children, right? This idea of intrigue that comes from this 70-year-old story is pretty cool. And this is definitely much more tame in the terms of all the things that could be that you could watch from Alfred Hitchcock. My son didn't love it. He was a little bit bored. He didn't quite understand, but he said that he thought that the set was really cool. So I think this is something that it's worthy of your time if you've not seen it, especially for some of the decisions that they made around the set and around the way that they shot some of the scenes, because the timing, again, it's just impeccable. I don't know if they could turn this into a stage play because the timing just has to be such like with such precision. And then when I think about it like that, I'm like, well, it's still as precise because it's still being filmed as one continuous shot. And
Right.
that's what makes it so cool and such a triumph of a film, and probably on all these lists for that reason,
That's right. Absolutely. So that is Rear Window. Happy 70th birthday again as we celebrate this one. And maybe we're going to be talking about some more Alfred Hitchcock later in the year when we get to October. I have to keep your eye on that. But for now, keep your eye on the website, Michaela, www.drinkthemovies.com, because that's where we have recipe for this cocktail, the Rear Window, and all the cocktails we've ever done here on Drink the Movies for our episodes. You can go there, see how we made ours, and then make your own, and then take a picture and send it in. We love it when people send us in pictures of the cocktails they're making and drinking. You can do that on our social medias. It's at Drink the Movies on Instagram and X and Threads and Blue Sky and Facebook.com/Drink the Movies. If you want to get some more behind the scenes, podcast stuff, bonus episodes, hangouts, all that sort of stuff, you can do that on our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Drink the Movies. We appreciate all of our patrons over there so much. And if you want to get some merch, you can do that on our merch shop. It is drinkthemovies.square.site. Michaela, something that would be really helpful to Drink the Movies, get our name out there a little bit more, get us bumped up those charts in all the best ways possible. That would be to leave us a review. We got a review on Apple the other day, but they did not leave a comment on there. So do that, and then we would love to feature it on an episode. So go do that if you wouldn't mind. We definitely appreciate that. Michaela, where can they do that?
You can find us on Apple Podcasts. You can find us on Spotify, Good Pods, anywhere where Spotify podcasts are supported and distributed. We love what we do, and we love the community that you all have built, because you've all done it, not us. But we only get to do this because people like your good selves listen, press the subscribe button, but also leave us a review, share all the things on social media. That is the best way to spread all the Drink the Movies, drink the music, drink the video games love, all of that. happens because of folks like you. So we really appreciate it. And if you have the time, we would love it if you did that. That'd be great.
Absolutely. So, thank you so much for checking out Rear Window with us. Let us know what you think about the movie, and thank you so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you next time on
Drink
Drink
the
the
movies.
Movies.
He did it. I'm telling you.
That was a really good Jimmy Stewart impression, for sure.
Oh, he's the best.